Welcome back, everybody. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. In today's video, we will be talking about the Fortnite World Cup in 2021. There are a few different topics I wanted to go over, and I will explain those in a bit. But if you guys could, make sure to use my code COBESMIND in the item shop, guys. It helps me out more than you could know. The reason I'm making this video today is because of the X2 twins who play in the OCE region. I'm sure most of you guys already know about these players because I do believe they are the most popular pro players on OCE. So I was watching them play in the Daily Trio Cash Cup. They ended up winning that, and then about 2 hours and 15 minutes late into a 4-hour tournament, they easily qualified for the Aqua and Nyrox Duo Cash Cup. If you were 2 hours and 15 minutes late on EU or NA East, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't have qualified regardless of how good you are. Maybe the best of the best players could have gotten close, but I don't know if the players would have been bad enough for someone on EU or NA East to qualify in that amount of time. But the X2 twins ended up qualifying with ease. So it begged the question whether OCE players should even be able to qualify for World Cup 2021. And then I thought, well, why only OCE? Why should Asia and Brazil be able to qualify, and maybe even NA West? Because for each of these regions, it seems like the talent level is so far below NA East and EU. And for all of the regions I just mentioned, except for NA East and EU, it's like playing against high school basketball players. And then for NA East and EU, it's like playing against actual NBA players. The competition is so staggeringly different that I just don't think you could compare it. I couldn't really find anything online for this data and where each of the players who placed in the World Cup solo event, where they were from, what region they were from, and where they placed. So I had to go through and look at each of these players and figure out which region they were from. The results definitely did shock me, and it made me change my opinion quite a bit. That's why I like making these types of videos. This is why I like doing this type of research. If I can do research into Fortnite, I can do research in other things and change my opinion for the better to be more factual. So I went through all 100 players who qualified for the solo World Cup, and I figured out what region they came from. The first one we will be talking about is NA East, which had 30 players qualify. And then I went through and figured out the average placement for all NA East players, which ended up being 51.1 place. So about 51st place was the average for NA East. And then I went through all 40 of the EU players, and they ended up placing 45th on average. So about 6 better than NA East, even though NA East had the #1 top dog. And then for Brazil, there were 7 players to qualify, and they ended up being about 55th place on average. A little bit worse than NA East, but definitely not as bad as I thought they would have been, but we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth in a second. And then for Asia, there were 8 players to qualify. It said 7, but I'm pretty sure it was 8, guys. If you guys want to correct me if I'm wrong, feel free to do so in the comment section. But the Asia players on average placed 61st place. And then surprisingly, for the 10 NA West players, they placed 42nd place on average. So NA West ended up performing the best on average for all of the players than any other region, which is definitely surprising, but again, we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth later. And then for OCE, there were 5 players to qualify. On average, they placed 84th place, way higher than any other region. They had some of the most pitiful placements on average. It's just insane. And it does make me come to the conclusion that maybe OCE as a region shouldn't be allowed in the World Cup. I'm now going to go through each of the best placements for each of these regions. The best placement for NA East was Booga in 1st place. For NA West in 3rd place was Epic Whale. For EU, Crew came in 6th place. For Brazil, King came in 5th place. Peter Pan for Asia came in 19th place. And for OCE, Sozman came in 68th place. That was the best placement for the whole region. I know it was only 5 players, but that was the best they could offer. 68th place out of 100. If they had 7 or 8 players, I don't think this would have changed. If they had 5 more players like NA West, I still don't think this would have changed. I think the best placement would have been around 60, no higher. And the only reason the Brazil region was where it was at was because of King. You guys know about King. He placed 5th place, winning himself $900,000. And he is the only reason why this Brazil average placement is where it's at. If he wasn't there or he didn't place as well as he did, the average for this would have been around the Asia average. And the average placement for Asia is way below NA East and EU. So to me, I have to think whether Brazil, Asia, and OCE are even worthy to play in the World Cup. Yes, King had an amazing performance, but I do believe it was a fluke. My prediction for the 2021 World Cup, Brazil, Asia, and OCE won't have a single player break the top 20. I want to say a single player from this region won't even break the top 30, but I'll stick with 20 for now. I think the reason King did so well is because he has been W King, if you guys don't know what that means, a very aggressive player, and he was too young to really realize who he was facing. I think he also played to his advantage as well. That's what he was practicing the whole time. In King's Brazil server or region, he would W key everyone because there wasn't any competition when he was qualifying. And for some reason, he didn't realize how good the players actually were, all these top 100 players. If he realized that, he would have played more passive and he wouldn't have played the game that got him there in the first place. That's why I believe OCE did so poorly, because they didn't play the game that got them there. And even if they did play that same exact play style that allowed them to qualify, I think they probably wouldn't have broken the top 20. I truly believe what King did was a complete fluke and it will not happen again. King made pro players look awful, and I feel like since this was one of the first LAN experience for a lot of these players, the nerves sort of got to them. And for whatever reason, maybe it's King's age, maybe he was so young that he didn't really process exactly where he was to the point where he didn't feel those nerves. He just played his game, but I don't think he'll be able to play his game in 2021 if he does qualify. I think a lot of these same players will qualify for the next World Cup, and I also believe that King will not have a repeat performance. I don't think any of those regions will have a repeat performance like King. I don't think these regions necessarily deserve to be in the World Cup, and I'm sorry to say it, guys. I think the best thing they could probably do would be add 5 more players to NA East, 5 more to West, and then 10 more to EU, and totally get rid of the Brazil, Asia, and OCE servers. Yes, it is very fun to see the Cinderella story of King being able to beat some of the best players ever. I think for most of these players with their newfound LAN experience, this will never happen again. I think EU, NA West, and NA East will dominate the top 20. Every single player will be from one of those 3 regions in the top 20, if not even the top 30. I think the practice they get is so much more superior to Brazil, Asia, and OCE. It's like the basketball Olympics. The NBA has the best players, and then they get those best players. They take the best of the best and they put them against average players, because all of these other countries don't have the competition that the NBA does. The practice for Brazil, Asia, and OCE isn't there like it is for these other top regions, and they won't even get close to placing. The anomaly with NA West was because of of the play style they have. NA West is a lot more passive, and that's what happens in the World Cup when actual money is on the line. For some reason, the average NA West player is smarter than all of the players in these other regions. Maybe it's because NA West players have a little bit more skill than the bottom 3 regions. Maybe it's because they know that this is actual practice for maybe a potential World Cup in the future. Regardless of what it is, NA West has very stacked and passive end games that allow for great practice for when it really matters. But OCE, Asia, and Brazil are W key. They just run around with their heads cut off, getting kill after kill on bots. NA West will dominate again in 2021. Will they be better on average than any other region again? I could see it happening. There are still some of those pro players like Arkram who didn't place all that well in this World Cup, but I feel like he's absolutely on fire, and for the next World Cup, he's probably going to place in top 10. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you guys did enjoy. If you guys are new, make sure to drop a sub, drop a like, turn on those notifications as well. Use my code COBESMIND. I love you guys. Thank you for watching.